Hi, I'm Dean Sage.
And I'm Jack Curvin.
And this is Show Me Your Deck,
a podcast where we explore the intersections of oracles and chakras,
using our original decks to create new insights. Episode 47.
Here we are.
I two things as we start. Like, obviously last week we had our guest, which I'm still kind of very excited about. Like, that was fun. Mm-hmm. I always knew our format was going to be interesting when we added others to it, because like the whole concept, show me your deck, right? Like, we wanted to find other indie deck creators to kind of collaborate with, and we were able to do that this time, you know, and it was good and it was great, but like it totally changed the dynamic.
Yeah, well, Kaylin's entire energy and focus on philosophy is different from ours, and it was nice to hear a new voice and to see new art.
I didn't realize how action orientated the two of us are. Mm-hmm. Like, we were talking before the broadcast, and you were kind of talking about productivity, and I'm like, yeah, that's our, like, we both have this, like, I don't know, childhood trauma voice. It's just like, you need to be productive, you know, you need to do something important. There's no rest, you know, there's no time to power down and do nothing. Like, you have to be doing something at all times.
And his deck was more about rest and listen and absorb and process, synthesize and figure it out. And that's vital. And I don't do it enough. I love how our philosophies, I mean, obviously, right. But like it's very clear how our philosophies and spiritualities underlie the work that we did, the creative work that we did. Obviously, you know, it's there. So no, I really enjoyed that. And then, I was also just thinking, how we have come like so far along on this journey, and, you know, the work that we get to do together. It's really kind of brilliant. It's fun. It is. It's a lot of fun. And if you are listening and you happen to have a deck of your own, we would love to see that as well.
Absolutely. That would be great. So I'm feeling like the dice. I'm feeling like we should get a roll here.
All right.
Tetrahedron of Doom.
The Tetrahedron of Doom has declared that we're starting with deck number 3 today. So that will be the intersections. That's the abstract deck that looks like flower bouquets. And we're going to be going for card number. Okay, I don't know where the die just went. Hold on.
Fairy die, I swear. Every time you roll this dice, it goes like, you need a box. We got these for Dungeons and Dragons. You need like a little rolling box so it can't wander off on you.
It just wandered all the way back behind a bowl over there. And it's number 30.
30.
Oh, how beautiful. Oh, what a beautiful card. This is Vishuda, air, aqua, and intersecting with the third eye, dark blue, water, ajna, I see. So I say, and I see.
That's pretty.
So light blue with dark blue, and that is just absolutely gorgeous. Come over to YouTube and look at the cards.
Absolutely. If you're not on YouTube right now watching, definitely go check out the cards on YouTube, because you get to see them. And they're a pretty thing. Oh, I did a deck video. I need to get you to do that, where we flip over every card. Like, people who buy decks like to see like what the cards look like. So I keep forgetting to make you do videos.
Four of them,
right? Because you're extra.
Oh, and this is where it comes to bite me in the ass.
Yes. Then you have to promote all of your extracity.
Yes.
All right, so I see. What is it? I say touching I see?
It's I say being intersected by I see. So the way in which you communicate yourself and how that is influenced by the knowledge you take in, your perception of the world, how you understand. So the ways in which your intellect is influencing what you say or share.
So vocative. Verbose.
And it's a reminder, or at least what I'm picking up in this moment is it's a reminder that the information is being filtered through you, and to just be aware that whatever you're sharing, whether it's art or dance or writing or speaking, it is being influenced by the way you perceive whatever it is you're sharing. And to just remember that it's not the only way to discuss or analyze or express about whatever the topic is at hand.
Well, I mean, we were just talking about this. Like we said with our creativity, what we saw with our intuition and intelligence and third eye and connection, etc. So our decks are our expression of that. Our books are our expression of that. Mm-hmm. And right before that's what I think I was going to mention. Right before this reading, I did a quick reading just because we had gone on for about an hour of just connection and what's going on in our lives, and kind of trying to rid ourselves of any negative energy. So we come into the reading, and I got the first sowing, the Ace of Seeds, and it's about the start at the root chakra and the start of the grounding. So I think this reading I think is going to kind of have a grounded, real, very focused message for us today, and it starts by focusing on what we say and that kind of communication. And I think from what you were getting, I'm getting this is an outward focused reading. Like this is going to be focusing on things that are coming out of you, but the I say part isn't necessarily words. Like it is air and it is the throat chakra. So most often it's words, but expression isn't just words. Expression comes in many flavors, many different types. Mm-hmm. So,
and it's a reminder going forward, going to the rest of the cards, that your perception is important. It's invaluable. And the way you understand it and discuss it or respond to it is uniquely yours. But remember, it's yours, and there are other perspectives as well. And to just be aware, because it's very easy to get into echo chambers, even inside yourself or within communities. Just remember, whatever it is you're understanding or perceiving or expressing, they are unique to you, and that's valuable, but it is not the only option for understanding whatever is happening at hand.
I think, in the pre-taping, we were talking about self-talk, and I just have that on my mind here because you mentioned echo chambers within ourselves. Like the third eye can be total internal reflection at times. Like it can look inward as much as it looks outward. And sometimes we do trap ourselves in that kind of constantly reflected echo chamber. And it's not positive all the time. In fact, I think it kind of drags us down and refocuses us on the wrong things.
Well, it's interesting if you're thinking about the metaphor of an echo. If something echoes back and forth on itself too much, it just starts to become pure noise. Mm-hmm. All the meaning gets washed out and it's just noise. And if you are trapping yourself in a cycle of reinforcing a message that's unhelpful, which is something I've been dealing with for the last week or 10 days, then you forget what the original message even was, and you're just left with all the mushy noise. Mm-hmm. It's not even giving you anything anymore. It's just filling space for no reason.
It's just bouncing. It's just bouncing around, reinforcing and degrading the signal as you go. So yeah, I think part of this is how do you take in things, right? So I know. How do you know? What do you know? Where do you know? What's going on with the input? How are you using that to reflect internally? And how does that affect your expression? Mm-hmm. So there's kind of an inward imbibing of things. So I think this is a call to look at your spiritual landscape. Look at how, what do you believe, right? Take that and don't dismantle it, right? Don't like take it all apart and try to figure out all the inner workings of it. Like I don't think we're calling to like do that much work. I think this is just a reality check. Like, hang on a second. Like, come here. Come sit down with me for a second. Like, what do you believe and how is it influencing what you're saying, what you're expressing right now? And are you in a good place with that? Right? Are you doing good external, internal reflections? Are you seeing clearly? Or have you got like an echo chamber going on? Are you rehashing something in your mind and it's causing your expression to change? Because people will notice your expression. People will know what's going on with you sometimes with your expression, but you've got to do that sanity check, that reality check every now and again. Like, I snapped a little bit in a meeting, not managed, like I didn't like, tell somebody off, but like I got kind of like, for a second, because it was a little triggering, and I have to kind of like, think about why did that happen? What does my, perspective look like? Am I focused on the right things? Am I having too much internal noise? Am I missing some clarity that I should be seeing? So yeah, I think look at the field, right? Look at where you are, look at what you believe, and do that kind of quick reality check. Like, are your expressions matching what you say you believe? Are you actually expressing what you believe so that other people are seeing it? Or would they be surprised to hear you say, I believe that this?
Yeah. It's a beautiful reminder that you are entitled to your perception and your expression, and still encouraged to grow by being aware of others.
The card colors remind me a little bit of like either sun up or sundown. So like sunset, sunrise, because it's got the blue going into the darker blue. So it's like either the very, very, very beginnings of light or the very, very end of light. Mm-hmm. And I think in this case, this is more sundown because the light blue's on top rather than being on bottom. So this is, I think there's a cycle. There's kind of like a cycle feeling to this where you're maybe sunsetting something. Maybe this is an opportunity to kind of look at that field of belief that you have and take a piece of it and say, okay, maybe this served me in the past, or maybe this was created by the past, but it's not serving me now. I need to maybe take that I know and put it away so that it doesn't affect the I say. Mm-hmm. Just, it's okay. Like, beliefs come and go. The way that we view things changes. It has to. Otherwise, we're not growing.
If ideas and beliefs don't change, if they stagnate, if they calcify, then you end up in situations where enough time goes by and what you believe is quite obviously no longer tenable, and then you have to do mental gymnastics to justify it. Mm-hmm. And I'm looking at you, organized religion, that as we go through life and the process of understanding more deeply this universe we live in, gaining new perception means that ideas can change. And if you don't allow your own ideas to change, let alone organized religion, just stay on the personal. If you don't allow your ideas to evolve, you're not allowing yourself to evolve. And we know that if something does not evolve, what does it do? It dies. So let your intellect and your creative voice change and evolve and thrive in whatever the new landscape is.
Science tells us a lot of interesting things, and I'm thinking of two things in particular. One is that, and this is a little far-fetched for us right now, but we're learning that far-fetched when it comes to quantum mechanics
is spot on.
Is spot on sometimes. But one of the far-fetched things that quantum mechanics kind of starts to unravel is, are we really just three-dimensional? Is space real, or is it just time laid out in 3 dimensions? And it, as you start to kind of explore these things, like there's some people saying, well, are you truly conscious of what you think you're conscious of? Like, is consciousness what we think it is? Or do you kind of bounce around? And then are there is there a multiverse? Like, are there multiple versions?
I can answer this right now without any empirical evidence. I'm not happy at all with what I am conscious of. I would be quite happy to bounce around somewhere else. And I thought there were 11 dimensions. I'm disappointed that there's only 3 or 4 or whatever it is.
Well, no, the math does call for, I think, 11 or 17 in the current models.
Yeah.
And they're trying to go with 11 because 17 seems like a lot, but I mean, hell, 17 is a good number.
17 is a prime number too. Why not?
But my point is that, where new things are happening, new understandings are coming along, and they're going to challenge things. And one of the things that we do sort of know is that belief may have more of an impact than we understand. Like there's the observer effect, which messes people up, which is that things change when you observe them.
And I have empirical data for this because every time I try to take a picture of my cat, he stops doing whatever he's doing. He stops. And it's really, really pissing me off because there's all this cute stuff that I'm trying to record for posterity. And as soon as I pick the camera up, he's like, "No, I'm done." It's like, because he does not perform. He's like, he's not here. He's like, "Check with my agent." I'm like, "Well, excuse me."
So yeah, there's, become more and more evidence that belief has changed in psychology. We know that like self-talk is very powerful for a lot of people, and changing that self-talk changes their state and being. And we know that belief and actions can physically shape the brain. Like we're learning so much more. To your point, we're learning so much more about ourselves, the universe, how things interact, that, it's not saying nothing. Like reshaping, reorientating your beliefs can and does have an impact on you, your physical being, and on the beings around you. And it's not just mumbo jumbo like science used to think. The things are blurring.
It's been disproven. I don't remember how long ago, but there was a book out in like the 70s that was really popular called The Physics of the Tao, I think. Mm-hmm. Was that right? The Physics of the Tao? Something like that. It was looking at the ways in which mythology, religion, and math are all effectively saying the same message, just with different languages. Mm-hmm. And I'm not a physicist, so I don't understand the math in the book, and I don't understand how it's been disproven. But the notion that belief and knowledge are intertwined is certainly not new. It would be interesting to see how it might come back around and show that although the specific math of that particular book might not be accurate, the underlying concept still applies.
Mm-hmm. There's a lot of stuff where we may have intuitively understood something that is later proven correct by science, mm-hmm. is later challenged, the ideas, and I'm not talking about like the weight of the body and the soul and things like that, but like I'm talking about like actual cognition and some of the weirdness that we're finding in the world. Like the double slit experiment where light is both a particle and a wave, and it seems impossible. It seems like a paradox. And yet there it is. There's the evidence of it, and something else is going on, and we don't know what. Like, what's dark matter? We don't know, but it influences us.
Well, recently, was it in Switzerland? Was it Switzerland? I don't remember. They just recently created matter out of energy for the first time. So they were actually taking photons and they made electrons and protons out of photons for the first time. So that confirms something from 100 years ago in the E = mc square theory that, energy and matter are the same.
Yeah.
Well, they finally did it just recently. And so they've cemented that as true.
There's just a lot of things that we don't understand. Like just recently, the Milky Way might be in a void. sort of like us and our neighboring galaxies might be in a bit of a void where we're much less dense area of the universe than other areas are, and that's why the Doppler shift is happening. So because the math's not mathing, the rate of expansion that we observe and the rate of expansion that the model tells us we should observe are different. But there's the Doppler effect where all the other things around us seem to be expanding. Well, what if it's just, and it's funny, I had a student that had this thought, what if it's just gravity pulling at the light that's causing it to redshift rather than the fact that the galaxy that we're looking at is actually accelerating? Or is it, or some combination of the two? And it's fascinating. The little kid was brilliant. I have no idea what happened to him, but he was like, what if we're inside a black hole? Like, what if our universe is inside a black hole and there's other black holes, and that's what dark matter is? And that's actually a possibility right now. But it wasn't at the time we were reading Stephen Hawking. It was I'd never heard the conjecture before, but now we're kind of looking and going, oh, maybe.
Okay, all right.
The math.
That's a product of remaining nimble and flexible in perception.
So, just coming back to the card, all of this stuff that we've just talked about is just that you said flexible and nimble, and like I said, I feel like there's a cycle here. I feel like maybe we're at this point. The reading is at the end of a cycle, which is a great place. Like, it's a new moon. It's a chance to take stock, look things over, take things down, change things, polish things. This is the downtime. I think that's kind of where we're at. This is the downtime, and this is the time to look at how things are flowing, to kind of take a snapshot, step out of yourself for a second, take a snapshot. What's emanating from you, and what are you seeing that's affecting that emanation? What do you know, and what do you see that is causing this emanation? And let's just sit with it for a second. I'm gonna pull one of my cards, and let's see what direction we're gonna take this in.
Well, I was going to answer your question in a kind of, silly kind of gay way. It's like, what are you emanating? I was like, Old Spice body wash. It's not, but it's funny.
That is funny. Yeah. Old Spice. All right. We have the Seeker of Seeds. So we're down in the root chakra, which I'm unsurprised at. My deck wanted to go to the root chakra at the beginning of the episode. Bare feet upon empty ground, see what soon can grow. Bare feet upon empty ground, see what soon can grow.
So that grows nicely out of the context card, since the context card is reminding us to remain open to new possibilities. Here we are at the new possibility. This card speaks to me about curiosity. And wonder, actually, the idea that there is something to be discovered and not having to define what that is.
I take something slightly different, at least the way that I wrote it. It was, a gardener planting the garden. But I do see what you're saying, where there's, a sense of wonder and non-expectation as well, because you can let the land, right, speak to you. Whereas if you don't go in with a plan, you can take kind of what is and let it grow as it maybe wants to, or it should, or what would be more natural. I think of like the natural gardens versus the really highly sculpted gardens. Like how you approach this.
Well, where I went, because I'm all about systems, is square foot gardening, where everything is very, very specific. And so if something's growing where you didn't plant it, to yank it out.
That's funny. Well, I mean, that's very you. I think there's, this is very rooted. This is, I said bare feet on empty ground. very rooted. Like this is as close to the earth as you can get without like digging into it,
being buried under it.
Yeah. This is absolute grounding and feeling the earth, feeling your root chakra, and then letting yourself with that safety, right? With that groundedness, see what can be generative, right? What can come from this. So I think in the context of the reading, we were up high, we were third eye, we were throat chakra, and this is saying, okay, that's great. At like this is the end of a cycle, the beginning of a cycle. So we've gone from ending to beginning. So we're cycling back. Okay, now what? Now there's a big question mark on this. What will you do?
There's an implication of patience and expectation here, because once you do sow a seed, you have to give it time to sprout and become something. Mm-hmm. So this is not the time for instant gratification. This is not the time for immediate return on value, or what if it's called return on investment. This is not about the ROI yet. This is just about planting the seed and letting it incubate and grow and just have a chance to even start. Mm-hmm. So don't decide that something is a success or a failure yet, because even once the initial sprout shows up above ground, that is not what the full plant is going to be. You have to give stuff time.
Yeah. Well, the next card in this little sequence is the Sentinel, who does the actual planting. So this is even before you get to the planting, this is just understanding.
Is this preparing the ground?
This is even that. This is preparing your mind mm-hmm. to see what you're going to do, to mm-hmm. plan what you're going to do. So you're in that preparation step, and then you have to realize how far away from harvest you are. Right, you're at the beginning. The ground's not even ready yet. You have to look at that empty ground and say, okay, where am I going to put my furrows? Where am I going to, put the plants? Where am I going to put the bench? Like, are you designing a garden? Are you creating a harvest? Like, what is it? Like, it could be anything. It's that moment of saying, what is there? Because that tells you what's possible. And that's a really, really important point that I want to really emphasize, is that people get mired by possibility and they become immobilized by it.
Something else to consider, if we're at the point of looking at the ground and seeing what's possible, we'll stretch this metaphor out a little bit. If this is clay soil, you can't plant certain plants. If this is sandy soil, you can't plant certain plants. You need to look at the ground that's available, look at what that contains, what it is capable of nurturing, what it's possible to grow, so that you do something that has a fighting chance at survival. If you plant something that needs to be really, really light, loamy soil, and you plant it in clay, well, that's on you, baby. Look at the soil. Look at the ground.
This is the point. Not everything is possible, and that's okay. The true choice is looking at what is possible and choosing between what is much more limited options than you think it is. And you do this in your creativity. You limit yourself to make yourself more creative. And a lot of people do this. I was watching a video on like great writers and great creativity. And the one point that they're making, and I agree with it, is that creative people that are productive create limitations. They create boundaries that they then operate within, because it takes away the fear and the existential dread of the empty page. It can't be anything. It can't have all possibilities. You have to narrow that down. So this is telling you, in your life, in your creativity, in your relationships, not everything is possible. And like you said, you have to recognize the ground. Like, what is even the composition of that which you are going to plant in, and how does that limit what you can possibly grow?
Mm-hmm. And then looking at what possibilities remain, and figuring out how to use those limitations to create something that absolutely looks boundless. Mm-hmm. Because that's what's really beautiful about structure. I mean, I'm a big structure person, but by creating structures and rules and limitations, it's not that it cuts you off from possibility. It's that it forces you to be really like extraordinary about what remains.
Well, it does cut off, but in a good way. Mm-hmm. Like it sequesters you so that you're not shooting at everything.
Instead of thinking of it as a limitation, you think of it as a guideline.
Yes. It creates a boundary so that you don't have to, and this is cognitive load, like you don't have to think outside this boundary because that's why you have the boundary, is to prevent you from having to consider all possibilities. Like you would never, if humans considered all possibilities before we acted, we would never act.
No.
And that's why our body is a reaction engine. That's why, we have reflexes, because we couldn't possibly exist in this world if we had to say, oh, the pan is hot. What should I do about that?
I should pick it up. No, that hurts. Just go ahead and eliminate that option. Yes. See, isn't that better?
And the short circuiting of reason is important. That's going back to our context card. That's why what we believe is so important, because it does shape our reflexes. It does shape our reactions in meaningful ways.
Yeah. Because if, going back to the context card, if you understand limitation to be something that is an encumbrance, then when you see ground that doesn't do what you want, then you're going to be frustrated. Mm-hmm. But if you can go back to your original card here and see that limitation is actually focusing, then when you come to this ground, it's not going to allow exactly what you had in mind, but it could do something else that you didn't think of that might end up being better. But you have to be open to seeing it that way.
It's very troubling and tiresome to try to sort through all the things. And this is true at anywhere you go. Like at work, your good days are actually pretty regimented because you have certain things that you need to do in certain ways. And a lot of people like that. And that's okay. That's good. And I think your beliefs is the same thing. You don't need to have a belief about everything. You have your beliefs, and you don't need to process everything. And this is especially true in a capitalist society. It's there, like I've said before, there's no ethical consumption because it is capitalism. It's unethical in its basis, but you have to kind of exist within it and have your beliefs within it. And if you aren't careful, you can spiral very easily. And that's not healthy for you either. Like, yes, we do need to deal with atrocity. Yes, we do need to deal with exploitation. These things need to be dealt with, but these are societal, massive constructs. And we as individuals can't lose ourselves in that. And you have to understand that having your belief and not being able to always act on it, or not always being able to express it, is part of the limitation of who we are. There's only so much we can do. Like this plot of land that we're talking about might be very small, and you need to do what you can do with it. Your life in the grand scheme of things is very small, but your expression is really important because it can be that little spark that moves forward and causes other flames, that causes other sparks.
Shall I roll?
You shall. You shall.
Okay, the tetrahedron of doom says, Sassy. I'm going to deck number 1. I'm going to check out one of the projections of joy, one of the suggestions for taking a profession and putting it into action. It'll be card number 23.
23. I'm going to call the 50-sided one the Die of Doom. It keeps... Like it confounds away. Every time it confounds you. I look at you and you're like so confused.
I'm like, where are you? Well, all the little sides are also very small. So I'm like, which one is... I have to look carefully to see which side is actually pointing straight up.
Gotcha.
Because there's like 6 that might be. So I have to look really close. But this is number 23. And this will be heart, green, wood, I love, and how it's influenced by air, aqua, I say. So coming back up to Vishuda, coming back up to expression. So the way I love is impacted by I say, the way in which you form connections to other people, how that's influenced by the way you express yourself. So the suggestion here is see both sides of the board. Play yourself at chess. Listen as much as you speak. Let people disagree. See both sides of the board. Play yourself at chess. Listen as much as you speak. Let people disagree.
Okay. So still, sticking with expression, but this time adding the heart. The play yourself at chess is standing out to me as I hear this. Because we were talking about what beliefs do you have? How are they doing? Taking an inventory, taking a stock, right? Like looking at what there is and how it's functioning and what is it doing for us? How is it affecting us? How is it serving us? And you have to play yourself with opposing ideas. And that's how you stay nimble.
And you have to do it honestly. Like sometimes when people attempt to play themselves at chess, they'll play one side stronger than the other just to get through the game, and you can't do that. You have to play the game the way you would play it from either side of the board if you're trying to be honest. If you don't do that and you decide, well, I want black to win this time, then you will make weaker choices as white so that black can win, and that's not an actual internal debate.
Do the masters do that as an exercise? Is that one of the ways that they learn?
It's the way in which you learn to see how other people see. So here, I'm going to make this move. This is a great move. Now let me go around to the other side of the board and see if as this other side, if I can see what's being done. Without knowledge that I had this plan. If I come around to this side of the board, was it clever? Or do I just hope it's clever? Because if black can actually see the move white made and play it properly, then you're learning to make yourself stronger. If you're playing white and you're trying to be sneaky and acting like black isn't going to see the moves, then you're not making yourself any better. You have to see how your opponent, which might be yourself, would, parry a thrust.
So in our context, right, end of a cycle, picking things up, dealing with them, rolling them around. It's not chess is a very sort of attack, defend game. But I think it's softened in this respect because it's the heart. We're not trying to defeat ourselves, right? We're not gearing up for battle. But we do need to test our assumptions and, to your point, get outside and view back in what is happening. What is it that we're creating? What are we expressing into the world? And how do our beliefs support that? Get in the way of that? What are we doing as we play ourselves, right? What are we seeing and sensing and feeling? And I really want to bring feeling into, because we've got the heart. So there's joy and grief in all of this. there's beliefs that are born out of joy, and there's beliefs that are born out of grief. And the fear that comes with loss, with losing. There's, a sense of growth, but it's untamable sometimes. Like, we do grow, we do add beliefs, we do retire beliefs, but sometimes it's done reflexively, like we talked about. And it can linger, like those things can linger and cause effects that maybe you're not okay with or not aware of, or, come to realize need to be changed.
So something that comes to mind now, it did not come up in my thought process when I made the card, however many years ago, but something like debate prep. So it's kind of a strange situation there, because when you do debate prep, you're trying to see how somebody might try to trip you up or poke holes in your ideas, and how you try to bolster it, and And that's not really quite the same, because what I intended when I wrote the card is that you try to understand the way you think and change if necessary. Whereas with debate prep, that seems to be more like, I'm looking for the ways that you're going to try to poke holes in my idea so I can reestablish the idea I've already got, instead of coming up with a better idea, which is not the same. So a general discussion that turns into something like a debate can help you change your mind about stuff. But if you're thinking of it in terms of always winning, that's not quite what I meant. I can see how somebody might go there. And I'm not saying that's wrong to see it that way. Anybody can, take the meaning however they need to. My hope is that by seeing and playing the board from both sides, you'll learn empathy. It's not so much about defending yourself against attack as it is understanding why someone would attack you in the first place.
Or what you might perceive as an attack. Why do you perceive it that way?
True. Yes. Fair.
Like, there's a expression and you're reacting to it. Why did you react to it that way? What in your beliefs did it trigger that caused that reaction versus, a rational thought process or a reasoned process? What's getting at the core of what's happening? Like, what's getting in there?
And that comes to, the other two lines on the card, because we've been discussing play yourself a chess, but there's also listen as much as you speak and let people disagree. So again, this isn't necessarily about winning. It's about maturing. As a player, as a speaker, as whomever, you don't always have to be right. You don't have that pressure. It's not the responsibility that you always have to be right. Maybe it says, let people disagree. Okay, so not everything can be immediately resolved. That's fine too. As long as you come away with a better understanding, that ultimately is the goal here, is connecting with people and communicating with them. And how does that help you?
There's this post that I saw, and I think it may have originally come on Tumblr. Doesn't really matter. It was out there in the media world, and it talked about don't argue with people to win because they're not open to facts. Right. Like, if you believe that you can convince someone with facts and evidence and well-reasoned arguments, you're going to be very frustrated because most of the people that want to argue with you are not swayed by those things.
No, it's more about emotion and vanquishing and dominating.
And so what you do is you simply turn them back on themselves. And their point to this was how to win an argument with these people, which is to get them to be so frustrated that they walk away or give up. And that's winning. Yes, I see where they're coming from, and they're not wrong. But also, sometimes that's true even of people that you want to help. You have to reflect things back to people and get them to hopefully question it themselves and to seek out things themselves. You're not going to just be able to convince someone that you're right and they're wrong. That's a very attacking position. But if you reflect their moves, right? And if you counter when they say something, you point out a fallacy in it or get them to define something. Like one of the things is get them to define their terms, because they use terms willy-nilly. Well, what does that mean? Or if they make an inappropriate joke, like, why is that funny? Tell me why that's funny. It forces them to reevaluate what they're saying. And that can be positive. It doesn't just win you the argument, but it can be a positive way to reflect what's happening back to a person, so that hopefully, like you said, empathies, hopefully they can see themselves from without for a moment.
Yeah. And if you don't even want to engage that deeply, all you have to do is simply, ask them questions that force them to answer in a more and more extreme manner until they're forced to recognize exactly how far they've gone. And then they have to say something that's absurd even to themselves.
Mm-hmm. And then that same process works for you as well.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Sometimes you need to be that.
Allow it to work on yourself as well. So allow yourself to realize when you're being absurd.
Really hear yourself say things out loud and hear what you're saying to yourself. It's a process that the therapist uses. Cognitive behavioral therapy uses it. You verbalize what you're saying to yourself, and then you hear it. And you think about, well, that's not what I want to say to myself.
No.
Like, if you're saying to yourself, I'm worthless because I'm not being productive. I've not written my story in, I don't know, how long has it been? I think it's been a couple weeks since I wrote my story. Since I wrote on it.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you could have negative self-talk that says, well, I'm rotten because I haven't been productive. I haven't progressed this thing that's important to me. In several weeks, I've just been rotting on the couch, and that makes me a bad person. That makes me bad. But that's when you say that out loud, you're like, well, no, life is life, and you can't be productive all the time. You shouldn't be. Where does that come from, right? Where in your past does that come from? What drives that? That's the thing that you need to look at right now, is what's driving all of this. And go to your heart and feel your way through it, because it's not going to be rational. If it was rational, it would make sense, but it's irrational. It's feelings, it's opinions, it's experience. What is that? Where did that come from? What's causing you to say that to yourself? Because if you find that, you can change it. That's where I break with cognitive behavioral therapy. I don't think you just combat the thought directly, because I think you need to work on the systemic problem that it comes from, because otherwise you've got a lot of cognitive load. You've got a lot of thinking going along to make yourself feel better. And I don't think you can think yourself into a feel. I guess maybe you can, but do you see what I'm saying? Like, you can't think yourself out of depression.
No, but it seems like you can think yourself into it.
Yes. Yes, I think you can.
I just want to reiterate that one of the lines here is listen as much as you speak. And that is for yourself as much as for interacting with other people. So to your point, when you're trying to evaluate yourself and understand where you're even coming from, that is part of the process of listening. Instead of saying, I am this and I am that and I feel that and this is my situation, just stop and see if the inside has anything to tell you about how you're perceiving the world.
I want to go back to the context card, because this is good. I want to go back to the context card where I said I think this is very an outward focused thing. We've been talking about a lot of inward focused things, but I think this is a chance to sort of go, I just said something. What's the reaction out there? Mm-hmm. What's everybody's face doing? What are they saying back to me? Mm-hmm. What's going on? What's the echo? What's the reflection? What about what I've just said has triggered somebody else? And as in the playing chess, what's happening, right? What's going on out there? How am I seeing this? How am I knowing this? How am I feeling this?
Yeah, and now with chess, it's quite literal and mathematical. So, I mean, you are not a chess machine. You're not a computer, as it were. But there is still something to be said about understanding the logic of what chess does.
Well, and there is training your mind to be more rigorous about what it reacts to. So, we as white people, you and me, grew up in a system that trained us to be racist and gave us this systemic privilege that we have, but also the systemic thoughts that we have, the first reactions that we have. My mom would lock the car door, when she saw a black man walking down the street, or would check the locks on the car door. These things just are ingrained in us. They're born into it. But we can be rigorous about our reactions. We can look at them and say, oh, okay, I know where that comes from. I understand why it got there, but I need to be more rigorous about the way that I believe and think on these things. And I think that's the playing. I think the listening part that you kind of keep coming back to is, how are things going out there? How are things happening out there? What do people always say to me? What do I always, what expressions do I always get? Do people always laugh? Do people always cry? Do people become indifferent? Do they walk away? Do they stay longer? Do they go deep?
Stare silently?
Do they stare silently? How often do they change subjects when I've said something?
Yeah. Well, like for the example you just gave about your mother locking the car door when a black man walks by. So here's what's interesting in that. You will hear people who are racist still refer to black people as people. Okay, so they're black people. Okay, so just think for a moment. What if that black man heard the car door lock? How would that make him feel? And why are you okay with making him feel that way? Especially if he wasn't doing anything to you and didn't even look at you and didn't even know you were there until he heard the car door lock. It's like the quest for empathy is ongoing, especially in a life that can be full of trauma and surprises and misunderstandings, but it's still vital because we have to live with each other. You are my neighbor. You're walking down the street. I'm in a car, but why am I going to presume that you're going to rob me or attack me? This is looking at this with empathy. I wouldn't want to offend somebody that way, especially somebody I don't know who's never done anything to me. So it just doesn't make sense for me to lock a car door when a black man walks by the car. It doesn't make any sense. Is this person running at the car? If not, then he probably doesn't even know I'm there. So the conversation that we're having with ourselves, inside ourselves, with each other, between each other, about each other, it can't be filled with information from only one source, specifically not if we ourselves are the one source. We have to be open to other perspectives so that we can see what kind of ground we're standing on and what kind of crop it can grow.
And there are boundaries and guardrails, and you have to kind of forgive yourself. Like my mom, the other part of that story is that my mom had been raped previously, and she was on edge in some ways around strange men in general.
Sure, of course. And my empathy for her is, as a woman walking around in a patriarchy, it's dangerous. I get it. I can see why you would be afraid of a strange man walking by, but if you specifically label him black and that's why he's scary, then that's not necessarily appropriate. Now that he's a strange man, okay, yeah, I get that. I understand why a lot of women would rather be trapped with a bear?
It's a bear,
than a man.
Yeah.
It's like, I get it. It's cool. So, I mean, I have empathy for her as well.
And it's the kind of thing where, yes, these things are ingrained, and yes, they will be that way. I was talking about Wicked, and I think Cynthia Erivo is fucking amazing.
She played Elphaba?
Yeah. Just, I mean, she's incredibly talented. I didn't like the way she played Elphaba in the movie. And it's because I saw this confident, amazing Black woman, but the movie called for this naive, crazy green lady. And it threw the thing off for me a little bit, because when we get to Defying Gravity, I didn't see anything change, because she'd been incredible the whole movie. She was completely grounded, very introspective, just loved herself and was so sure of herself already.
In the first arc of that story, you didn't see her go from mousy to heroic. She was already heroic from the beginning.
From the beginning, she was so confident, and it's, maybe that's me responding to a Black woman being alpha, but I don't think so. But that's where I kind of have to step outside, and what am I seeing? What are my reactions, and how are those playing into it? I listen to her in the car almost every morning. I sing along with her, because it's incredible. It's, Idina Menzel is a great vocalist. I think Cynthia Erivo is better. Just she has more range, and when she goes out there, it's like some people complain that Idina strains a little bit to kind of get the big notes. I feel utter ease when I'm listening to Cynthia do it. Just utter, skill beyond skill. And all the videos of her in her previous incarnations of music are popping up, because, she was elevated to the national stage in a way that just doing musical theater doesn't usually elevate you like that. Like, you're known in those circles, but everyday people don't know you,
Yeah, they're not going to Broadway shows.
And now, her book of work is coming out, and it's just incredible. But I feel like, and I don't know if it was her choice, I don't know if the director took it that way. Like, I don't know where it came from, but I think that, I wanted to kind of see this naive person who was persecuted, but still had this, belief in the goodness of the wizard, and at the same time was hot-headed and kind of like Linda says, flew out. Like, why did you fly off the handle instead of, why didn't you stay calm for once instead of flying off the handle? And
when was she ever calm?
Yeah. Well, no, I mean, I never saw her fly off the handle. Like,
yeah,
I was like, that was never there, because she was just so confident. But my point is, that's how I saw it. Right. I think other people probably saw it completely different than the way that I saw it. And my mom, as much as she was afraid of Black men, was almost obsessed with Black women.
Oh, okay.
It was very interesting. She had a Black nanny growing up, and she wasn't, we're not from the South, we're from freaking California. Like,
how'd she end up with a Black nanny in California?
Just at the time and in the place, there was this little microcosm. My grandmother was the socialite of town, and my grandfather was the unofficial mayor, and they were celebrities, and they just she had a Black nanny growing up, and it changed her. And so I have a very interesting relationship with Black women, because I was raised in it was very reverential household. Like, Maya Angelou and Toni Morrison and Oprah, and this is my experience. So, like, I see all those things in Cynthia Erivo as she plays this character. So, all this comes down to saying we're shaped by what we believe, by things that have happened, and like I said, I know where these things come from. Like, I know I can see where the past and the experiences that I've had lead to it, but I have to step back every once in a while and go, okay, well, am I right? Did we miss out on maybe the kind of crazy Elphaba that was intended by the original musical, or did we get something magical and wonderful and new and different, and it should have been that way? Am I looking toward the past and wanting to see something different? Because that's what I want to see, because that's how I interpret the character.
I read the book when it was still not known. And when I tried to get people to read the book, they made fun of me for reading the book. So it's always ironic to me to see how it has grown into the thing that it is.
Incredible thing. Yeah.
The incredible thing that it is. I think it was written by Gregory Maguire. I think that was his name.
Yes.
And he wrote sequels to Wicked, but he also wrote other reworkings of fairy tales and fantasy stories that dealt with other societal issues. Wicked is specifically about racism, but Cinderella is about classism, and I actually like it better. I guess because it seems more realistic in some ways.
Well, we have to go back to this was a white man writing about racism.
Oh yeah, true. I think that I don't respond to musicals the way other people do, despite the fact that I'm a theater person. I personally don't care for most musicals, so I just prefer the book because I invented in my head the way I want it to be. And then as soon as something gets produced, then if it's not the way you imagine, it's like, oh, that's not how I imagined it. That's disappointing.
Well, and to be fair to the book, the Wicked musical is very, 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 very different and cleaned up and, stripped of a lot of context things that spoke to the racism undertones to the point where it's very surface level. Like the musical is very palatable to a lot of people.
Well, I liked Wicked so much that it ended up being a part of my MFA thesis concert. Because then after that, I started studying other ways in which antagonists could be made sympathetic, because I don't know that Gregory Maguire was the first person to do it, but he certainly did it well by making the Wicked Witch of the West a sympathetic character, and then doing that with other characters as well. Because in Cinderella, he made the Wicked stepsisters more palatable, and so then later, much later, you have movies like Maleficent and all these other stories where they're trying to. I was
just thinking of Maleficent, yeah.
They're trying to make the bad guys good guys and make them empathetic or sympathetic, and showing why they are the way they are and who they are. And there wasn't as much content for that back when I was working on the thesis concert. So it was very interesting to, consider how no character actually exists in a vacuum. And at that point in the late 90s, because I think I read it back in 98 or 99, that was a very, very new concept, at least to me and everybody at UCLA, when I brought it up to people and they thought I was silly for reading it. It's interesting how much more sensitive people are to the backstory of antagonists, to the point now where people are actually like, oh God, are you about to make the antagonist sympathetic? We're so over that. It's like, but it's not really that old of an idea. It's been worked really hard in the last 20 years, but it doesn't have that much of a history going backward. And
well, I think we're kind of getting sidetracked for a second, but maybe this is really
not really
important.
Because the reason I said that is because the cards are talking about playing the board from each side and understanding, different perspectives. And this was the first time I could remember looking at a story and being like, the Wicked Witch of the West is a badass and was completely misunderstood. And that's an example of understanding where people are coming from, in a narrative setting. But how do you do that in real life? Because if you have this person who's acting in such a way, I'm not saying that you stop everything to try to understand everything from their perspective and turn them into a good guy, but they do have a reason, probably more than one, for acting the way they do. And even if you know that, it doesn't necessarily change anything about what they've done or what they've said, but it can at least give you understanding for why they're doing it. And doesn't mean that you have to suddenly like them or agree with them or allow them to act badly, but it gives you context. And you can take from that which you will, but it's good to have information.
I think the reason that we've seen this kind of happen, and I think the reason why it continues, but there's also backlash against it, is the queer coding of villains in early movies and early media. And it really speaks to a queer color, race, creed. Like, it really speaks to people that have been othered.
Mm-hmm.
And the idea of there being another side to the story is just the fact that there's another side to history.
Sure.
The victor telling their tale has erased or doesn't mean it should erase the other side. And when you hear the other side, you go, maybe we weren't the good guys.
Yeah. Well, one of the ways that showed up in my MFA thesis concert, according to gaze theory, as I learned it in 1999, it was still focused completely on heteronormative gaze. And there was no female gaze. They were asking questions about it, and there definitely was not a gay male gaze, at least not one that was, talked about and understood. And what I was told over and over and over is that the one who sees is the one who is empowered, the one who is seen is the one who is objectified and disempowered and da, 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 da. And I pushed back hard against that. It's like, I, as a gay man, if I am caught looking at a straight man, I am not empowered by that.
No.
I am endangered by that. And so I have a problem with this entire concept. And so I worked that throughout my entire thesis. And part of what I did was take ideas from Wicked and plop it in there so that, over the course of, the show as it evolved, I got turned into a monster just for being, just for looking. And, it was interesting to take upon myself the task of turning myself into the monster that homophobes thought I was. It was an interesting process.
Very interesting. I think, the idea of being able to pivot something that is deemed bad for being, I think that's what makes Wicked so interesting. And that's why I find Cynthia such an interesting alphabet.
Mm-hmm.
Is what is absolutely embodied is the I am bad for being.
Yeah.
And that I think we have to watch for that in ourselves. We have to understand, why do we relate, like K-pop Demon Hunters is out and incredible, and I know that you'll never watch, and that's fine.
I don't know what that even means. What is it?
It's a Sony animation that they produced and went straight to Netflix. Okay. And this fake K-pop group, two of them, are topping the charts in worldwide and in the US, going much higher than other K-pop groups have gone before. And
K-pop groups have gone pretty far, haven't they?
They have. And some of them have gone higher. But as far as like girl groups, they've broken a few records for girl groups in that from the past. And what I mean by going far is, like, yes, BTS has had number ones and, beloved songs, but this is reaching non-K-pop fans. This is reaching people who have never experienced K-pop before. And
so this is going into thriller territory.
Yes. It's reaching people that don't get reached normally by this. But there's this, the undertone of the story is about being an other and having to hide and her friends want to go to the bathhouse and she can't go to the bathhouse because she's got markings. That
demon markings,
yeah. And her whole life she's been told to hide them and pretend that this is not part of her. This is not part of it. And the story's, it's an amazing, lovely little story. And it's not kids. It's made for kids. Like, kids enjoy it, but the details of it are made for everyone. And they're especially, and so absolutely I'm seeing queer readings of it. Because it's exactly that. It's the people that have felt like they had to hide part of who they were in order to be accepted, and that is, it speaks to them. And so there's all this queer content. Of course, there's shipping and all the other regular stuff. Like, yes, all of that has come from it. Like, you have a demon boy band. Of course, you're going to have homoerotic demon boy band. Like, it's
how could you not?
It's all there. It's
how could you not?
It's all there.
Boy bands are already homoerotic. You put demons in there, it's definitely on.
Yes, but the larger point, I think, is that this message of feeling like you can't be your true self resonates with almost everyone. And I think that that's something to not forget as we do this sort of cycle of listening and playing and learning and believing and challenging, is that what in all of this have you left out of yourself, or what are you hiding? What are you preventing? What are you being told externally you shouldn't display, you shouldn't let out?
Well, that kind of goes back to the garden, doesn't it? What should you even grow?
Yes. And what's naturally there.
Mm-hmm. And what will thrive in this soil.
And you need to accept that, just like you need to accept yourself. There's things that should grow, and you should let them grow. And you should let others see it.
Mm-hmm. I want to hear from your deck.
Yes, let's do. I'm getting actually like almost like a couple cards. Hang on a second. No. Well, maybe yes. Interesting. Okay. So I pulled two, but we'll take them in turn because I'm not really sure. Usually I don't get that much energy. This is a major arcana. This is number 3, the Creator. This is the Empress in the tarot. What you imagine, you can shape.
Well, how much more on the nose could that be?
What you imagine, you can shape. This is third chakra energy. So this is fire.
Action, Manipura.
Yeah.
Fire. Okay, so let's just do a quick recap. So we started with the idea that when we express ourselves, it's from a position of how we understand the world, and then looking at the place where we are and what can thrive there, and being okay with boundaries and guidelines, and then coming forward into that and getting information from other people and being in conversation with them and learning from them. And now we have the Creator telling us that with all of that in mind, now we can act. And whatever all this information was, we can synthesize that and we can do something really great with it.
We have kitten magic happening. Sorry, I got distracted there for a second.
So much kitten magic.
The black and white cat that's mainly white hates the black and white cat that's mainly black, and I think that's pretty appropriate for today. But they just crossed paths on the desk, and they were kind of staring at each other. And
they're like, I don't know about this.
the tuxedo cat was kind of slinking away. No, what you just said is incredibly important. I didn't mention this is actually third chakra touching throat chakra.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Well, here we are.
So just reinforcing, the throat chakra is essential.
The idea that what you do is impacted by how you express yourself. So, and what does that mean? Like, if you're a pianist, it means you express yourself with the piano. Unless you take what you know about the piano and put it towards drawing, whatever. But the idea that what you do is impacted by the way you express yourself, because what you choose to do is an expression of who you are and how you want to be understood. So, okay, think about how you want to express yourself. What are you going to do with that?
I love the Creator. So the archetypes in my deck are the first 7 major arcana cards, and it starts with the Magician, which I call the primal, and that archetype shapes the elements. So they take the great cosmic ocean, the pre-nothingness, the heart of the Big Bang, right? They take that and they shape the elements that we know into things that can be worked with. And then the High Priestess comes, which I call the Oracle, and that is the intuition of the deep intuition, right? The spiritual, universal intuition that we can tap into. And then you get the Creator, which takes the elements and shapes the world, shapes the things, shapes the creations. And you kind of rise up through the lower chakras and you get to this very productive element. And it really does say that you're unlimited. Going back to Wicked, you're unlimited. My future is unlimited. You can shape anything that you can imagine. And pair that though with the root chakra saying, look at where you are. And I think there's an interesting dichotomy between the two. Both are talking about creation. So the Seeker of Seeds is the Page of Pentacles in the tarot. And there's this interesting dichotomy between the focused creation, like the focused generativity, and the ultimate, right? The more universal generativity. And I think what I'm getting from this is you have universal energy, right? You have the ever burning flame. You are a source of creation and you are a creator. So don't limit yourself thinking you can't. I think that's what the creator is saying. Don't think you can't. You can. But also bring yourself to where you are, ground yourself where you are, and look at what is in front of you. And don't try to bring up the wrong seeds in the wrong soil. You're just asking for trouble. You're just asking for heartbreak and grief and all those things. Yeah.
Disappointment for sure. And coming back around to that garden with its boundary markers, understanding that working within them might feel like a constraint at first because there's all that stuff outside the boundaries, but that's where chaos lives. And here's the creator bringing these materials forward that have been honed from conversation and learning. And you have the wisdom to look at this terrain where you are. And now you have these materials that are, born from your own lived experience. And what are you going to do with them? Something really great within these boundaries, doing the best you can with what you got. And that can be really amazing. Doing what you can with what you got sometimes sounds like settling, but it is not. Doing what you can with what you got can be absolutely brilliant.
Well, I mean,
especially if you keep chaos from, coming in from the boundaries.
Painters who limit their palette create utter beauty.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of changing things and toning things and honing things that goes into something like that. Creating a monochromatic piece isn't just saying, oh, I'm going to take away all your paint. I'm only going to leave you this.
You can do it with choreography too. There's a choreographer named Lucinda Childs. I think her name is Lucinda Childs. I'm so out of the dance world. I'm losing all my memory. I think it's Lucinda Childs. She took, and this was with Mikhail Baryshnikov, and it was for the White Oak Project, I think. And she created an entire dance with like 8 movements and skipping back and forth. And it was this kaleidoscopic wonder of a creation. It's minimalism in one way and maximalism in terms of the way she staged it. It's absolutely invigorating to watch. Absolutely mesmerizing how much you can do with a very, very little. It's extraordinary. If anybody can find that on YouTube and find Lucinda Childs with Mikhail Baryshnikov at White Oak, the White Oak Project, you will be amazed what you can do with dance with only a few gestures and some skipping.
We are at a point, I think, in the context where we're reminded that we shape ourselves and we shape what we express. I think there's an onus that comes with the creator that says it's not just, oh, let me fiddle around, right? And do something or try something. We have a responsibility as a creator. You and I have responsibilities as creators, right? The things that we say, the things that we put out there, we have a responsibility to be responsible, to think what we're saying and to be honest and to take stock and to own our own fallibility and own our own context. I think that's where the Creator is also speaking to us. We can't just turn on the fire and leave. Right? We can't just strike matches and throw them anywhere.
And here's the problem. What you're speaking to is a type of honor that I respect, but there are plenty of creators who do not, who do start fires and walk away. And we have to be very careful with that, because enough fire ends up destroying everything. So fire can absolutely be used for creative purposes, but obviously it can be destructive. And there are plenty of people who use their platforms in a way that I think is not particularly honorable. They still do it, and they get rewarded for it, for all the mayhem they cause with lots of clicks and everything. But you, listener, I would ask that you please consider that you use your fire to light lights, not to burn forests. We have enough forests burning. Be part of the light.
And own yourself, right? I own that the way that I see wicked is tainted by who I am and what I've lived and what I've experienced and the core memories that built me and all of these things. And I accept that I might be blinded to something, that I might not see clearly, but I am the creator of these thoughts, and I do have to own that piece of it. And if I am wrong, then I need to be willing to change and to change the way that I'm creating, change the way that I'm expressing.
Okay, so I want to ask a question, because it's a word that you use from time to time, and I want to understand better. Sometimes you talk about, the difference, is it between shame and guilt? Is that
shame and guilt?
Okay. All right. So there have been multiple instances on our shows where you say that your perspective is tainted. And I would like to understand what you mean by that, because I think that with you being as cognizant of yourself as you are, I don't know if I agree with the word tainted. So I want to understand how you're using it.
Well, you've probably caught a reflex in myself where the word tainted may be a judgmental word. So I'll take that piece right off the top. I think the way that I'm using tainted in this case is that I am a white cishet passing man, and I enjoy privileges from that, and I am bounded by that viewpoint sometimes. Mm-hmm. And so when I say tainted, I mean that these pieces of me interact with what I consume and how I express. And, you have one drop of white in a paint mixture and it changes the whole mixture. It changes the color and it changes the clarity and it changes the gradation. And, and so that's what I mean, is that there are dribbles of me that get on the things that I interact with and change them. And so I'm always seeing through that fence or that filter or whatever you want to call it. But there's pieces of me that are dripping on it, and I can't not see through, I can't remove those dribbles. It changes what I'm consuming. It changes the way that I'm seeing things. At being, what some would consider closeted, in that I don't run around outing myself all the time. Mm-hmm. I don't, and some would say maybe I'm not living proudly because of that.
Well, but that's not for them to say, obviously.
Well, but these are things where I don't live with certain things on my shoulder or on my sleeve, and so again, these are all drips. These are all droplets of me that are constantly there for anything that I bring in. And so when I say tainted, I just mean it's changed. It's fundamentally changed by my gaze.
Sure. Okay. I just feel that words like tainted and dribbled don't sound very affirming.
They may not be, and
especially for somebody who's constantly trying to be better. Now, I might use that word for other people because I can think of plenty of people who use their whiteness to taint things, but you are not one of them.
And I think it's probably a very judgmental word at its core. When I say it, I don't feel judgmental, but I hear it, right? I hear it back to me and I say, oh, if somebody came to me and said that they taint things, I would be like, oh, wait a minute, where's your self-worth?
Yeah. And I just want you to know that I don't see you as tainting things.
I think I have a fear because I have caught myself with very racist viewpoints from time to time. I have absolutely caught myself out going, oh, look at that. Where did that come from? That's not appropriate.
But you're on the watch for it, and you find it and you catch it and you think it through and you do something about it. So again, that's not a taint.
I think recognizing that we live in a systemically racist society and means that there are blind spots that we have, and there are filters or perceptions that we have that are reinforced by the way we came up and the way.
Oh, sure. No, that I can be 100% on board with. Being blinded, yeah, I'm blinded by my whiteness all the time. There's all sorts of stuff I have no idea what I'm seeing because of my whiteness. But at least we're in a position in the conversation now where more white people are aware of it and trying to be aware of it and trying to be proactive about doing something about it. The ones I'm worried about are the ones who want to regress. That I feel is tainted. But again, that's my perspective because I don't agree with them. They probably look at me and say that I'm tainted. So, it's all subjective, but I personally don't want you to internalize feeling tainted.
Agreed. I'll have to think about that word a little bit because it is a very harsh, judgmental word. And I think it feeds into kind of the left eating its own.
Well, I'm glad you said it. I didn't want to because I didn't want to sound, too harsh, but sometimes this stuff becomes very performative and then there's no forgiveness for mistakes.
Well, and you mentioned shame and guilt. Shame, this ties directly to shame because shame is you are bad. And we've been talking about Wicked, Alpha is shamed for being green.
Yeah. So and that's part of what was so intriguing about the book when I first read it was that it forced all those reflexive questions while you're reading it. I remember it being a very intense book. I don't remember liking the sequel as much, but I remember the original feeling really intense. And I haven't read it for a long time, but it left such a huge mark that I've always remembered the story. Even if I haven't reread the book, I liked it. It was very informative for me.
What's interesting about the book is that the racism was against animals, talking animals. That's the actual racism in that society. Was the way they viewed talking animals, and that's quite the metaphor. You've got in true racism, people are treated like animals, and in the book, they're treating animals like animals, and that's interesting. Like that's a hell of a metaphor to come up with. And then you've just got Alphaba, who's randomly green.
Well, and I think she was the only person green in her family, if I remember correctly. Is that the way it was in the novel?
I think she's the only green person in Oz.
Well, so the color of her skin did change the way she experienced going to school and everything. So there was the color of her skin and then the racial stuff with the speaking animals. And it was just fascinating. She
became obsessed with their plight because it matched her own experience.
In the movie, this is my experience with the movie. It pissed me off.
I know. Because they didn't market it right.
I didn't know it was a part one.
It did. To be fair, it did say part one at the very beginning of the movie.
It didn't say it on the poster, did it?
No, but it opens up with Wicked Part 1 is the title.
I'm looking down at my popcorn because I missed that too. And I didn't understand how they're going to finish this. I was like, there's a lot more. There's a lot more.
Yeah.
It's like, where'd all the animals go? I was like, she's only just now getting to Oz. It's like, what is even happening? I was like, and she flies away and it says Part 2 coming soon. I was like, nope. There's 4 more hours of singing. I can't. No. But the production value is beautiful. I will grant you that.
Oh, it's gorgeous. People complain about it. It's gorgeous. I
complain about that production.
Mm-hmm.
This is why I don't read reviews. People are crazy. That was a beautiful movie.
The stage musical is like got a steampunk kind of undertone, which is interesting and fine and is good for its time. But this is Oz. Like we all know Oz, and it's a movie, and you can't.
I saw the traveling performance of it at the Opera House in Boston, and it was fabulous. And I don't remember it being but 2 or 3 hours long. So I was like, well, how's the movie going to be twice the stage musical? Are they writing 30 new songs? I was like, okay, whatever.
A general consensus is that the first act is very rushed. Things happen very quickly in it. And I think that their intention was to try to give it more space in the movie. And maybe, and when we look back and go over everything, maybe we can consider and say, giving that some space was helpful. But there's just it's a wild ride. And then you get to the second act and, it's more not sedate, but a little bit more of a focused story. Cause it's, it's a little bit of a shorter story. You're not trying to fit as many things in. You're not trying to do a backstory in 90 minutes,
Well, I certainly just answered my own question about dividing my novel in half.
I was just about to say so.
Absolutely not. No way. Now that I'm thinking about it, it's like, nope, I answered that question. Bye-bye. You got to take the full 185,000 words or not.
So, there's we'll see what the final card is, because I think I pulled it already, so we'll see what that is.
Yeah, you pulled 2 at once.
The idea of being okay to understand where you come from, understand how your beliefs affect what you see and what you hear, and stepping outside and looking at that, but owning it, right? That's, I think, the real thing is you're going to mess up. You're going to say something bad. You're going to miss it. You're just going to miss it. You're going to have a tone deaf moment because you didn't hear it. You said it and you didn't hear it. And someone's going to say, hold up a second, like you did, and say, wait a minute. Wait a minute. What are you saying? Did you hear yourself right now? And you can go, oh crap.
Well, then you rewind and figure it out if it's actually what you meant or not. Because if we went over the word tainted and it actually is what you meant, then, okay, all right, I disagree, but okay, at least you know that you said it.
And, owning it doesn't mean being, absolutely, shellacked with hatred because of it. And, you can mess up. And I think, you need to allow yourself to mess up and change, and we need to allow other people to mess up and change.
That's real important.
And there's a stark difference between someone who consistently doubles down on something and someone who makes a mistake.
Well, they make the mistake and then act like the mistake was intended, and then try to justify it.
They double down.
And then rechange their whole story to encapsulate it.
Like, yes, we can bring our ire for those people, but the left does eat its own, and
a lot, badly.
It ends up dividing us even more.
Well, there's too many purity tests.
Performative purity tests.
Yes.
Because on the inside, everybody has it. On the inside, it's there. If you're white, it's there. I know it because I was raised in the same systemic racism that you were raised in. If it's inside me, it's inside you. Mm-hmm. Just because you performatively never messed up,
in front of somebody,
that doesn't mean that you're somehow better. It
means you're somehow luckier.
Or you grew up when there were no recording devices everywhere.
Luckier.
I think I've told the story before, but I was in a Starbucks waiting for my spouse who was off shopping, and I just wanted to kind of sit and write a little bit and, just kind of get that buzz of the environment going. But I couldn't help but overhearing. There was a table, and there was a young girl, I don't know, 13. Couldn't have been more than 13. And a boy her same age. And he was talking about how he had kissed a boy and someone had snapped a picture and just sent it everywhere. Mm-hmm. And like how much that hurt, because he didn't quite know what was going on. He hadn't worked through the meaning of this, and now it's everywhere and everyone knows. And I felt so...
Well, the moment is defining him before he can define the moment.
I felt so defeated and so just absolutely gutted for this boy, because God, how horrible that is, that someone can just take a picture of you and broadcast it everywhere and create
change the course of your childhood
whole thing, rather than you being able to, and maybe it was a mistake, right? Maybe that's where he lands, is it was a mistake. It was what's this? Oh, that's not it, and move on. But now there's a whole narrative surrounding him and all of his friends and his non-friends and the, friends of the friends and the friends of the non-friends. Everybody knows this thing.
Yeah.
And I just was like, wow, that's such a different way to live. Like not being afraid to just be, because someone could record it at any time. There's these,
not just record it, but transmit it around the world in a moment.
Yeah. For some reason in our complex, the children walk in the road and don't give a fuck that you're trying to drive. Mm-hmm. Just slow, like not even just walking, but like slow walking. Mm-hmm. And I get it. It's hot outside. I wouldn't want to be running around either. But if we were to honk at them, they could easily pull out their camera and record it, and we'd look like the assholes. But they're walking in the street and not giving no care for the fact that they're blocking traffic.
I understand.
And it's like, I can't, like, I can't imagine being a kid in this environment. And, your sins being recorded forever.
Yeah. And even if people don't see it forever, he'll experience it forever. It's going to change the way he interacts with the world going forward.
Well, and it could be 10, 20 years from now and it could resurface.
Mm-hmm. That's right.
And that's painful. That's very painful to have experienced secondhand. I still think about it to this day. That's how, much of an impact it made on me, just hearing, or overhearing this.
The internet is forever. For better or for worse.
Yeah. And here we are spreading our
well, so far
energy.
What we're putting on the internet, I don't mind. So it's fine.
We spread all of our energy, and, we'll have to actively get some, creators of color and creators of different experiences than us on here.
I have messaged them. They have to respond to me.
Respond to us. Respond to us.
To me.
Please. We want your voice. I think that's the most important part. All right, let's find out what this last card is. The source of waves. We needed second chakra, and boy, did we get it. Become the deep water from which all waves flow. Become the deep water from which all waves flow. So this is the Queen of Cups in the tarot, the Queen of Cups.
Become the what?
The deep water from which all waves flow.
Which always flow. I feel like we've had her before.
We have. You are the source of your emotion.
Gotcha.
Everything that you feel that makes up the sort of watery mass that is your emotions, it is you. It comes from you.
It's authentic and representational of you.
Yes. And we've had two queens sort of in a row this way.
Yes, honey, right here.
They have 2 queens. The creator is the Empress, and the Queen of Cups we have here as well. So we've got that energy with us. And I've tried to remove gender from my deck, not because I think it's wrong or bad. I didn't like pulling a card and being like, well, this is feminine energy. And that doesn't resonate with everyone. I didn't want something that didn't resonate with you. And yeah, there's times to talk about feminine energy. There's times to talk about masculine energy, but I think it just becomes so tainted at this point that it's hard to use those words without all the baggage. And that's kind of what I was trying to get away from is let's talk about it without the baggage.
Yeah, I'm glad you did. Because my experience with that binary in the last couple of years has been very frustrating. So I'm glad that it's not superimposed on the cards. So in terms of, these emotions being an authentic expression of yourself, what is that a reminder or a, what's the word I'm looking for? What's the affirmation here when we're looking at the entire collection of cards today, the reading?
Well, it's fascinating because the very next card in the sequence of the second chakra is you are released from your guilt. Mm-hmm. So by understanding that you are the source, you can be free of feeling guilty because it's all you anyway. It's all coming from you.
And if you are releasing that, or this isn't the card about releasing it per se, this is the card about looking at it and acknowledging it, correct?
Correct.
All right. So by acknowledging that everything you're feeling is true to yourself and indicative of something that's real about yourself, that type of honesty allows you, going back into the reading, to approach all these other cards from a position of emotional, maybe not stability isn't quite the right word, but at least preparation. So if you're going to have these conversations within yourself about what you even believe, and you're being honest about your feelings and seeing how because the feelings are coming up throughout the entire reading, and so is expression. So if you're being honest about all of that, then you can evolve as you need to, as you understand yourself better based on what's coming out of yourself, knowing that it's authentic. And that gives you something truthful. I'm getting real tired of the word authentic, but very authentic to work with in your garden. And then what you're sharing back and forth with people can happen as an open conversation. And in understanding yourself better, you learn to understand other people better because you know the process of working inwardly and doing inner size instead of always doing exercise. You can do inner size. And so when you're trying to play the board from both sides, as it were, you can see if somebody is debating with you in good faith, because you know when you are. And you know what it sounds like if somebody's just, babbling off.
Feel it. Like this is this is my water. So water is resonant.
And with all of that in mind, you have all these materials that are now familiar to you and comfortable to you. You can make something really representative of who you are and who you want to be and how you want your legacy to ripple out towards everybody else.
Yeah. Well, we have a members Patreon. It's patreon.com/DeanSageMedia. And you can subscribe and get the extra long version of the show, which in today's case is very extra long.
Very extra long.
And you get to hear how the reading influences us. How do we kind of jive with what we said, and how does it affect us personally? So you get a little bit of an extra show. We have a YouTube. It's Show Your Deck on YouTube, where you can see the beautiful, pretty cards that we talk about and get access to the podcast that way. Our books and our decks are available at showyourdeck.com. So you can get Jack's book from him, and our cards are through a third-party distributor. And my book is available on Amazon, both as hardback, paperback, and on Kindle Unlimited for free. Jack, where can we find you?
I'm at 49 Haiku. So on the intrawebs, that would be the number 4, the number 9, HAIKU.com. And on Instagram, it is at 49 Haiku.
I am Dean Sage Media. Find me if you dare. We do have an Instagram for the show. It's at your deck, and we'll say goodbye.